and welcome to this special episode of our Future Female Forward series. Now, from boardrooms to shop floors, the representation of women is growing in numbers. Until not so long ago, shop floors were seen as out of bounds for many women, thanks in part to the lack of infrastructure to support women on shop floors, and also because of the gender stereotyping of the roles because of the nature of the job involved. But the situation is starting to change, and more women are getting onto the rough and tumble of factory floors and proving themselves to be equals. Today, I'm here at electrification and automation company ABB India's shop floor, which I'm going to be visiting to find out what the company is doing to bridge this gender divide. Raman, thank you very much for your time here on CNBC-TV18. We're here to talk about gender diversity and what the company has been doing, and I'll get into the specifics.
Yeah.
What is the sort of trends that you've seen in gender diversity? How many women on the shop floor are you able to get? Is it hard to hire women, convince them that working within factories and confines is safe for them to do?
So having women in the factories is a little more difficult than having women on what we will call typical white collar jobs.
Yeah.
It is more difficult. But again, this is something which I see that there's a change that is happening. And change happening both culturally, wherein people or women are comfortable coming and working in the factory setups. Managers are open to women working in the shop floor. And even governments are making those relaxations wherein, you had earlier challenges that you can't hire women beyond certain timelines, etc. So those flexibilities are being given. Yeah. So overall, I see that there's a positive trend towards women joining in the shop floor side also.
Do you think there's an inherent bias when we talk about companies in the manufacturing field specifically, where roles perhaps may not be designed keeping women in mind? You think that is largely the case, if not in ABB, largely in the industry also?
So if I were to think back, maybe this may have been true about 30 years back or 20 years back. Today, possibly that's not the case, and definitely not the case with ABB. Okay. And again, the kind of processes we have, the kind of effort somebody has to do. So, for example, do you need to lift weight, etc., etc. What kind of physical challenges will you have in working? So our processes, I think, are very well suited. They are kind of almost gender agnostic. I can say that with confidence.
What I'm hearing from you is a lot of positives in terms of the policies you're creating, the culture you're creating. Yet the number of women, whether it is at shop floors, whether it is at the company in general or in leadership positions, remains very low. What do you attribute this to in this day and age? Like you said, is it the lack of talent? Is it the mindset of the company? Is it the mindset of the employees? Is it the mindset of their families? What are the biggest obstacles to having more women?
So I think it's the mindset right now. And again, I might be wrong in saying so, but my understanding of this would be that it's more the talent available in sectors like this. So how many women are opting for, let's say, doing an ITI so that they can get into roles on the factory premises, etc., etc. That is a bigger challenge. So demand supply, the supply is a bigger bottleneck.
Okay.
I think there was a bottleneck about companies having that mindset that we should not hire women, and our laws are also like that, because if it's a factory, second shift, don't hire women, it's not safe for them. Our laws also would not allow, there were certain specifications. So all that is changing as the overall infrastructure in the country is kind of coming up. So those things are changing, but I would say supply side would be a bigger constraint as of today.
All right, so supply side is the reason perhaps more change required there. But in terms of the attrition, when we talk about the shop floor, is it higher there? And what are the reasons women are not able to join or come back to work perhaps after taking maternity leaves, for instance, if that's the case?
So if I were to I would not have the exact number on shop floor, but generally if I look at it, my attrition of women would be about 1% or 1.5% more than attrition of men. And the biggest reason that when we analyze is typically around one, maternity, because typically you have a kid, and we have very flexible policies. You can have 6-month maternity, you can extend it to a year, but sometimes then they find it difficult to join back because they believe that that's the time they need to nurture the kid, and hence we sometimes see women falling out there. And the other reason why we see more attrition is typically still in the Indian context, the man is possibly the primary caregiver. So if a man is shifting the company, and most of the cases if you are a woman working, you also have a husband working. So if the husband is changing job, it's more likely that women also would follow. So specifically around women being able to continue if the husbands are kind of moving around. So we have an amazing flexible working policy now, which basically we are saying that you can work from home, you can work from office, you can even work remotely from a different city. And then to ensure that when women come back, what kind of a role are we offering? right? So taking care of that. Then when women are on maternity, and this is a question typically that's come, how do you rate their performance because they have not worked? So how do you ensure that their performance rating is not part of the bell curve? Actually, we have moved out of bell curve, but that's something, before we moved out, we were very conscious that their increments, etc., would not get degraded because they had not been working. So at least that minimum average or higher than average is something that they should get.
What about pay parity? And this is across the spectrum, not just at the shop floor.
Yes.
I was reading a recent study that said women get paid 0.8x of what their male counterpart may be getting paid in blue-collar jobs. What are you doing to bridge that gap?
So again, this is something which I'm also monitoring now for the last 3-4 years. And last 2 years data I can give you. In both cases, the increment for women was nominally more than the increment for men in both these years. But
have they come to the same basis?
But there's still a little bit of gap, but that gap is not significant. Okay. So it is not 0.8x. The percentage would be far lesser. But like I said, you're kind of moving in that direction wherein you are saying that, yes, every time the increment for women is more than men. So in few maybe cycles, the things will be taken care of. And then we also do that analysis by grade, by functions, etc. So again, let's say if I have 15 different grades in the organization, there are almost 10 grades wherein women on an average are getting more than men, and there are 4 or 5 grades wherein men are getting more than women.
Okay, Mr. Madhusudan, thank you very much for your time here on CNBC-TV18. I wanted to start by asking you, you've been in the manufacturing industry for a long period of time, a large chunk of that with ABB as well. In your time in this sector as well, how have you seen the representation of women change over the years? How has the situation improved or worsened, if in some cases?
Over the period of years, we started adding women employees in functions like sales and marketing, segment management activities, promotion activities, in finance. Then off late, recently we also added our women colleagues in technical support. And off late in the manufacturing industry, in the shop floor, if you been to our shop floor, you can see a quite good number of representations being done by our women colleagues, which we feel is in the right direction what we're moving. We have been stereotyped to limit a particular job for a particular gender, which is changed over the period of time. And because of this, we are able to see now, even in hardcore manufacturing, we are able to have women colleagues helping us in producing the drives and also giving us some new techniques, new solutions, especially in automation. If you've been to our factory, you can see the fastening of the screws, which is one of the latest technology what we introduced and as well copied across the different manufacturing locations of ABB itself. This came out because of the women colleagues' thought process and involvement in trying to have that.
But how do you ensure that unconscious bias that exists, and it exists even to this day, is not there in the workspace? It doesn't interfere with efficiency and productivity.
We also drive this called unconscious bias training program across ABB.
I see.
It was 2-3 years back we did it, and we covered almost all the employees. So I can see easily almost all the people got covered just to understand this bias which we have unconsciously should not be there at all.
Are companies starting to realize, is there the awareness that this is not some humanitarian cause? It makes economic sense to have a wider, diverse representation of people, and especially in the manufacturing sector, which is thought of to be as the forte of men only. Do you see that bias playing out? And, what is your sense? I mean, is the realization really dawning on companies?
If you ask me, we need to bring this inclusiveness if you want to make economic progress of the society. Why we think so? Because if you look at the Western world, you can feel that any job can be done by anybody. There is no bias as such, generally, especially. So if we start bringing up this culture of the women colleagues able to do any job which is not stereotyped for a particular gender, then we are having much more employable generations for us within the country, and this will help us to progress much faster economically, as well as it also bring us a progress on the psychologically also. The way we are looked from the external world as a country, as a company, is also is a big effect what we see. So for us, it's quite important that we make this inclusiveness as a part of our culture, and that helps us also for the economic progress of the country as well as the company, and also long-term sustainable growth for us.
We have to take a short break on that note, but don't go anywhere. We're back in just a moment.
Making the future truly forward and charting a path towards gender parity.
There is enough evidence, data are displayed to say that organizations that have women in leadership positions, women in middle management, women at entry levels, you clearly get better outcomes.
A mega initiative to make gender parity an attainable reality. HSBC presents CNBC-TV18 Future Female Forward, the Women's Collective.
Presented by HSBC.
Co-presented by HCL Tech.
Knowledge partner Deloitte. Industry partner FICCI. Associate partner Reliance Industries Limited.
iPhone 14 Pro?
Yeah.
क्या डिस्प्ले है. Nice show by the way. लेकिन आप तो फ्लाइट में बोर ही होगे.
What?
See ना, एयरपोर्ट बस आने ही वाला है. And you haven't even downloaded anything. तो क्या ही करोगे? Watch people snow.
Not if I have Airtel 5G Plus.
So you've
Already got it. Maybe you should get it too.
Burst of colors. Feels like a billion rainbows in my hand.
As India makes strides towards sustainability, Tata Power and News 18 Network launched a unique movement that empowered India to make meaningful change. Sustainable is attainable, a path-breaking initiative with the aim of bringing people together to spark conversations around sustainability, demystifying futuristic technology to enable our society and industry to make meaningful change, to spread ideas that will reduce our burden on natural resources and build a society and a world where the environment can flourish. Join us at the Sia Fest, 17th May, New Delhi on News 18 Network.
Welcome back to the special episode of Future Female Forward, where we're at the ABB India facility in Bengaluru to understand the steps that the company is taking to ensure more gender diversity at each level, especially for women at the shop floor. In sectors where manufacturing is a little more automated, for instance in FMCG or pharma, where the jobs require more skills and the pays are usually higher, the ratio of women is to men on shop floors is usually better. But in other sectors like chemicals, like in cement, there is still a long way to go. Here at ABB India, I spoke to some of the women on the shop floors to understand the challenges that are unique to them and what they're doing to overcome them. Aduvai Ammal joined ABB in 1989 at a time when women in the workforce, especially on shop floors, were few and far between. Working with a core manufacturing company for over 30 years, Aduvai Ammal has been breaking the stereotype that work involving heavy machinery is better suited for men.
In 1989, when I joined ABB, actually, society is not thought about diversity and inclusion in the society. But in ABB, I was working with more than 10 employees, female colleagues, along with me. In that, 2 colleagues were differently abled persons. So that time only ABB was working in that diversity and inclusion part. Even my siblings' education I supported, and my husband is very supportive. All relatives are very motivating, and they used to feel very proud.
But she says infrastructure for women workers has improved considerably over the past 3 decades.
Normally, separate Lulu or something we are not able to provide, and that is normally that one will be there. But another one is traveling also one of this one, because in those days 1989 and all, it was very very low, and the transport is not so much not available. So that time and all, it was there like that. But now, after days going on, it is improved a lot, even transport facility. So it is not achieving this target, like the technology has been improved. So it is not that we are not in the like heavy material which be falling on the leg or something. The technology is improved that we can make easy for everything, like, so even conveyors are there, even fastening tools are there, equipments are available, like we have to identify and we have to implement in our workplace. So that is why.
From Aduvayamal in 1989 to Indumati now, more and more women are choosing to explore their passions irrespective of societal biases.
Of course, my family also they had that culture, because a female wants to go to the IT department only. That mindset, even my family has also they had it. But I was studied in electrical and electronics engineer. I wanted to continue in that field. So I choose my job in ABB. I wanted to be in a core company. So I'm here today. I feel like there is no comparison between a female and male in working area. Whatever the male colleague is doing, the same activity can be done by a female colleague as well, because of technology improvement and as I earlier told, digitalization. So it is something like a bonding between each others, irrespective of a gender. So yeah, it is. I couldn't find any difference between a male colleague and female colleague. So I feel comfortable anywhere, and I feel happy that I have more female colleagues in my line as well. The gender bias shouldn't be there, irrespective of a gender. Like the activity can be done by both of them. The comparison is that should be kept off their mind. So that is the main thing. It is stopping a woman colleague to come out of their comfort zone. So if the management is okay with the mindset, like both of them can do the same job at the same time, it will be motivation to them as well. So I feel it is the thing. Woman can do anything. She is a multi-skilled, talented. So she is supposed to sit at a home for household activities. So she can do much more and much more. So she just want to come out of her comfort zone. So she can survive in any end of the world.
But a Deloitte survey has shown that India still has a long way to go in stepping up efforts to increase women participation on India's shop floors. According to a Deloitte survey on blue-collar workforce trends, only 18% of companies surveyed have female night shift blue-collared employees, only half have a door-to-door pickup and drop facility, and less than half have a female security guard at the plant premises in all shifts. Deloitte says there are several reasons for this.
Women participation is showing a upward trend in the white-collar workforce. It continues to be dismal in the blue-collar workforce. It's currently at approximately 7%, which essentially means that for every 12 men on the shop floor, we've got one female workforce. When we deep dive into this one, the low participation, some of the reasons that stood out for us are traditional societal values, lack of flexibility, lack of enabling infrastructure. These are some of the things that stood out for us as a reason why this participation is low. And clearly, if you were to compare with some of the developed economies, India has still a huge gap to bridge when it comes to women participation in the workforce. Numerous studies that we have done in the past also indicate that there are few traits that our female colleagues fare better on as compared to men. For example, absenteeism. For example, timeliness. For example, adherence to SOPs or productivity itself. So yes, there is a conscious push. However, despite structured effort, the outcome is not being seen in reality, or the actionable is not translating into reality, so to speak of. Companies which have better process automation, or for lack of better, which have better automated factories, tend to have a higher workforce participation. And the reason for it that we identified was that lesser manual work translates into lesser women participation into the shop floor that we are talking about. Number two was that in these organizations, gender sensitization is much better in terms of as compared to other organizations. And lastly, better enabling infra, things like female washrooms, or washroom for our female colleagues, separate changing rooms, pick up and drop facilities. These are the things that really help organizations to have a better female workforce participation in there. What are some of the industries, if I was to call out, which do this and have mature HR practices? Automotive, FMCG, pharmaceutical. These are some of the industries which are leading in these practices. Which are some of the laggards? Cement, chemicals, again, related to manual work, are the ones which are the laggards in the space. There is a traditional societal bias that we have. Number two, these industries have always been male dominated. So the amount of gender sensitization that we are talking about isn't there. There is also a fair degree of unconscious bias that remains at the point of hiring. That is what organizations are trying to overcome. As the location of the factory and proximity to the city increases, so beyond 40 kilometers is where we saw a significant dip in women participation. Now, this is data point number one. But coming to some of the challenges that organizations face while they're consciously trying to increase women participation on the shop floor are twofold. Number one, talent availability in itself. 80% of them have had low application rates when it comes to their programs that they're having for blue collar intake. Number two, retention. Retention of female workforce is a big challenge, especially during those two tipping point events of marriage and childbirth. These are the two tipping points because of which retention becomes a very big challenge. Another important factor that we are hearing these days and witnessing it in the workforce itself is the focus on higher education and migration to white collar workforce increasing.
ABB's women workers say a work environment with supportive superiors goes a long way in ensuring growth and better retention of women workers. Litika V, for instance, who has been with ABB for just 6 months, says learning new things beyond just what her role demands has been her favorite thing about being here.
I think ನನ್ನ ಫ್ಯಾಮಿಲಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ನಾನೇ ಅನಿಸುತ್ತೆ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಈ ಥರ ABB MNC.
I'm happy I'm the first in the family to work in an MNC like ABB. Along with drive assembly, we also learn other skills like how to maintain equipment and working on SAP. I also really like learning these things.
5 years ಹೇಗೆ ಮಾಡೋದು, equipment maintenance ಮಾಡೋದು ಹೇಗೆ, ಈಗ SAP working ಕೂಡ ಕಲಿತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ. ವರ್ಕ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ ಏನಾದರೂ ಇನ್ ಕೇಸ್ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ
Even if there is a mistake while working, we are told very calmly what we've done wrong.
ಕೋಪ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡಲೇ ಈಸಿಯಾಗಿ ಕಾಮಾಗೆ ಮಾಡು.
They give us steps to correct the mistake. They are very supportive.
ಹೇಗೆ ಮಾಡೋದು ಅಂತ ತುಂಬ ಸಪೋರ್ಟಿವ್ ಆಗೇ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ ಎಲ್ಲರೂ. ವುಮೆನ್ ಆಗಿರೋದ್ರಿಂದ ನಾವು ಏನೇ ವಿಷಯ ಇದ್ರೂ ಶೇರ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ತೀವಿ.
We share any issues we have with each other. If we are upset, we speak to each other. So I'm very happy in this line.
ಖುಷಿಯಾಗಿದ್ದೀವಿ ನಮ್ಮ ಲೈನಲ್ಲಿ.
To improve this, experts say organizations need infrastructure that goes beyond just offering hygiene.
One is from the organization side of things, where there has to be a systemic and structured efforts towards increasing the women participation. And the biggest challenge that they face today is availability in itself. The second thing that organizations need to enable is infra beyond hygiene. I get very upset when I hear things like focus on having female washrooms, separate changing rooms, driver facility, or creche and things like that. I think we need to just leap beyond this hygiene and start focusing on creating careers, start focusing on on creating enabling environment for our female workforce to thrive, something that is conducive to them. And number three, from an organization side of things, it is important to very strongly focus on unconscious bias and gender sensitization across the workforce, because it continues to be male dominated today. This is from an organization side of things. And I'm now going to talk about the workforce side of things in itself, which is going to cover the government part. So the first part is awareness in participation in the workforce. I think it's very, very important, especially in the rural parts of the country, where the societal norms that we have, I think that need to be challenged to the extent that there is awareness that, hey, look, there is an opportunity and everybody gets an equal chance. Number two, awareness on financial independence. I think that is something that has, and during our study, it also emerged out as one of the call-outs. That is one area that needs a lot of focus on. And number three, skilling programs at point of talent availability. When we crystallized on what is the bigger challenge, the challenge came out that the point of talent availability versus the point of skilling versus the point of employment are varied across by fairly large distances. If these distances can be bridged, then we would have that right skilled available manpower in terms of our female workforce coming into the fray and joining them.
Now, while positive intent has pushed a lot of women to the fore, it has also coincided with growing awareness among top manufacturing companies about the need to have more women on the shop floor. But that said, recent studies do indicate that the ratio of men is to women on the shop floor remains an abysmal 12:1. So while we have walked some of the way, we need to sprint on the much longer road ahead. On that note, we're going to wrap up this special show. Thank you for watching, and it's a goodbye from all of us.